Hey there. In this video, we're going to look at what it takes to set up a loss run report analyzer in Impira. So this is the Impira UI, and I have a collection here called Loss Run Demo, which I set up right before this call. And as you can see here, this is a loss run report. Don't worry, this is a fake loss run document that we generated. But for those of you familiar with loss runs, it probably looks pretty familiar to you. Um, and as you can see, I've created some fields. The things highlighted in black here are labels, and so these are examples that I've provided to the model. You can see there's not a whole lot of those. I think I have one in this document and maybe two in this document, and that turned out to be enough to train the model. Um, and what Impira is doing is automatically extracting all of this claim data, as well as some information about the document, like the policy number and the report date, into a table that's really easy to consume. And once you have it set up, it's actually really easy to go and process another loss run report. So if I go here and just drag and drop an example into Impira, what it's going to do is process the file and then extract out the losses, the claims automatically. Great. So if we open this up, you'll see all this stuff got extracted. It looks pretty good to me. Now, I also have this set up to fire a webhook when new data comes in. So you can see that right here. This is really simple and easy data to consume. And I even have it hooked up to Snowflake. And so if you go and run a query like this, you can see all of the claims. You could even break it down. This one has it per document and has an array of claims per document. Or you could create a view out of that query and then, again, query through all the claims. Snowflake is one of our favorite integrations because it makes it really simple to take document data and query it alongside the rest of your data warehouse and do all kinds of interesting analysis. And to actually get these files into Impira, obviously you can upload through the browser, but there are a bunch of other things you can do. We support emailing files into the product. You can even now upload files from Snowflake with the new unstructured data feature. Or if you visit our API documentation, we kind of walk you through the process of how to use the upload API and get files in that way. So this looks really cool and fancy, but you might be asking wow, how annoying or painful was this to set up? And so what I want to do is actually create one of these things from scratch. And so to do that, I'm just going to grab these documents. I'll exclude this one, and I'm going to create a new collection. So we'll call this, Loss Run Live Demo. And let's start from scratch here. In Impira, collections are completely independent. So they have a set of documents and then a set of labels on those documents. And the job of a collection is to basically create a machine learning model that's capable of generalizing the labels that you provide to extract the rest of the data in the document. So we can go in here and set up a new field. This is going to be a table field. We'll call it claims. And then we need to identify the first row and go in and teach Impira. So claimant name, claim number. And essentially, each time I'm doing this, what I'm doing is creating a new field, for example, a receipt date, and then providing Impira one example of that field. And for those of you familiar with machine learning, the idea in machine learning is that a machine learning model is able to learn from examples. Impira's machine learning technology is able to learn from as few as one example. And what you'll see is that after I go in and do some of this labeling, pretty quickly we're going to start to get back some results. If I set up the demo correctly, they're actually going to have a few errors as well, which we're going to fix right, live. Cool. So you can see orange in Impira's UI means it's not super confident yet, and that's not a huge surprise. I've only provided it one example to learn from, but you can see it's starting to get the hang of this table. There are a few issues that it's having. One is that it didn't know how to pull out the description, so it hasn't generalized enough from this example. And the other is that it's not quite sure about this header versus the data. If we actually click into this row, you'll see that some of these values are empty, and so Impira, hasn't yet learned that all of these values are required and some of the patterns about them. And so what we can do is actually teach the model a little bit more. And I know a little bit about how the model works, and so I know, or at least I have a hunch for why this is happening. I think it's because it's one line, and this is really short text. And so the model's unsure whether these bigger examples of the description are actually valid in the first place. And so let's maybe pick row 5, and we can go in and label the description and then confirm the row. And what that does is provide another data point to Impira that hey, this row 5 is a valid row as well. And you can see the spinner and flashers, and essentially what this is saying is, now Impira is taking that feedback into account and retraining the model, and then it's going to repredict the values as well. Awesome. And so one last thing, you can see that the claim number thing, it still hasn't learned about that yet. And we could teach it that by providing a bunch of examples, but we actually now support this cool feature called hints, which allow you to more directly tell the model information about rows. And so if you stare at this, aside from the fact that the background is blue, what really is going on is Impira doesn't realize that all of these fields are actually required to be there. And so, as a result, it's saying this might be a good row because even though it doesn't have a lost date and it doesn't have a lost paid, it still looks pretty reasonable. And so one thing we can do is we can actually tell it hey, no, that's actually not okay. And we can add a hint that says the claimant name must have a value and lost paid must have a value. You can see the preview right there is already excluding that row. But once I save that, you can see the spinners are running again. And again, in a few moments, we should see the table update without those, what we call junk rows. Great. So, you could keep experimenting with this. As you can see, this is still a little bit low confidence, and providing a few more examples will actually make the model more confident. But that's pretty much it. That's really all that's required to set Impira up to work on this use case. In future videos, we can show you about how to set up things like views and even how to set up the Snowflake integration and webhooks and so on directly. But just as a little preview, it's really easy to go in and create a webhook, link Impira up to Snowflake, and do all kinds of other things. Please don't hesitate to reach out with us if you take the product for a spin and you have any questions or any feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.